Hello, it's Bailey and welcome back to my channel. Today it is time for Jokes on Me Round 1 Episode 2 and I'm excited to tell you about this episode. So I'll go ahead, I'll show you my card flips now and I'll tell you what I read. Okay, full transparency, I'm coming to you filming these card flips immediately after filming the other card flips because I'm fitting in books from that I previously read this year because I'm starting a little late and I had already read books to fulfill those prompts. So back at it for episode 2. I am now going to use as my game piece of choice. I forgot to mention last time that I accidentally printed this bigger than I usually do. I don't know if you could tell by the scale of the cards, but just to show you how much bigger this is, today's game piece is a Tide Pod. Free and gentle because my youngest is allergic to everything. So I had landed up here on Wrapped. And we are going to do 3 more card flips. A Jack, so I'll be unhauling a book. Another Jack, so I'm unhauling another book. And a 2, at least that'll get me reading things. So with the 2, I do the prompt twice, so I'm gonna go 1, 2, and that lands me on this space that says good news. You can see more of those, like this one you can probably read a little better. And good news means Goodreads news, so I'll go ahead and I'll let you know what I'm reading for that and explain more what I'm doing for that prompt. So I'm quickly just going to show you the 2 books that I chose to unhaul. Okay, this is gonna be the first unhaul I've done in the new house, really, and for this season I'm only unhauling from my red books because my TBR books I went through a big unhaul like right when we moved in here, and I'm also not approaching this joke season with the goal of getting my TBR down. So I really would just like to go through my collection a little bit more and make sure that I'm only holding on to books that I would reread or like are all-time favorites. So I'm going to start over by going shelf to shelf. I have in this house separated adult books from young adult books. I have shelves over here that are all my young adult books. I'm going to start on the main shelf with which is my adult books, and I'm going to try to pick one from this top shelf and the second shelf down for my 2 unhauls. Okay, my shelves are in alphabetical order, if you didn't know that. So on the top shelf, I ended up grabbing Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. I didn't super love this book, so I'm not sure why it ever like got to stay on my shelves. So I'm okay getting rid of this. It was a Shelf This Book Club book. I think Kayla picked this one, but wasn't a favorite, would never reread, so I'm good with that one going. And I think that also is a book that I feel like has the potential for like other people to love it, so it doesn't need to have a home here when it can have a home somewhere else. And then the second one I grabbed from the second shelf was The Risk by Elle Kennedy, and I actually just recently decided to take this series off of my like ongoing series list. I don't plan on doing this. I think this is even the second book and I don't even own the first book. I think I had a good time with the first 2 books, but it's not really what I would reach for now if I wanted to read a romance. So no sense holding on to like a random second book in a series, even though I did like this one. Room for new books. And now I'm excited to tell you about a space on this new board that I've been really excited about this year, which is the Good News space that I landed on during this episode. Like I stated in the card flips, this means Goodreads news. And if you don't know, Goodreads has a little thing on the right hand side if you're on desktop that says news and interviews, and they post different lists of books based on different things. Some of them are by the month, some of them are by the week, some of them are based on a theme. Both of the ones that I chose for this video were both the like recommended by readers this week type lists. At the beginning of the year here, they did not have very many options so far, and I did want to choose from articles that were posted this year. So I chose from 2 of the recommended by readers this week. I chose to put this prompt on the board because I'm trying to read more new releases, and I like to kind of keep my eye on the Goodreads Choice Awards, and by reading from the lists that Goodreads is already pushing, I'll get a lot of those put in front of me here. So the first book I read was Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. I had read my first Sarah Adams last year, actually, as one of my friend's favorites. Martine from Just Martine had read and loved The Cheat Sheet, and so I read that because of them. And then I also loved it, so I instantly, when I saw this come up on one of these lists, knew I wanted to read it. I think it's a third book in the series that I haven't read any of the other ones of, but I ended up really liking this one. I gave it 4.5 stars. It is kind of an enemies to lovers story, also like second chance. Well, it's definitely enemies to lovers, and I'm not typically an enemies to lovers fan, but this one did work for me. It's also small town, which I love. And I just really ended up thinking both of the main characters were really endearing and like actually a really good match. I was convinced that they should be together. So I really enjoyed that one. I'm glad that I got an opportunity to read it so early in the year, and I'm getting a jump start on some 2025 romances. And then the next thing I chose from one of these lists as well is also a new release, but this one was a thriller, and that was Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney, which is the book that I purchased in the last episode of this when I got to buy a book. I did sadly only give this 3 stars, so that's a little upsetting because I bought it and it'll probably instantly be leaving me. I have read one Alice Feeney before, and I kind of felt the same way, where I thought that the premise was really interesting and it is like structured well, but I just am not really impressed by her settings or like how she does plot twists. So I think she's probably just not a thriller writer for me, regardless of how intriguing I find her premises. This book follows a man whose wife goes missing in the beginning of the book, and he is an author, which I typically also don't really enjoy following authors or people who have stuff to do with publishing. I think it's like a meta thing that like authors write about authors, and it's just like not that interesting to me, even though I love books. And so after his wife goes missing, he's having a tough time, and so his publisher is like, I'm gonna send you to this island where this other writer used to live so you can hopefully like get in your groove. I need you to send me a book. You're due to be putting out another book. So she sends him there, and then at this island, it's a really weird community. It doesn't seem like he's allowed to leave, and there's a lot of weird things going on. And so yeah, overall, I ended up only giving it 3 stars. It wasn't bad, but not a favorite. And then I slotted something in for my stats pick, and I am slotting in Unmasked by Paul Holes. I did read this for a book club, so that helps me with my stats in terms of getting to my book club books, and it's also counting as a nonfiction. True crime is nonfiction, right? Is that 2 separate genres, or are they the same? I think it counts as both. But this is essentially a memoir. Paul Holes is the detective who solved the Golden State Killer case. And if you don't know anything about that case, I do find that case extremely interesting. This just is not the first media I have consumed about the case. And then also, as I was reading this book, I found Paul himself a little bit insufferable. I really like the true crime aspects. I did not like Paul Holes. I did not like learning about his life. It seems he is someone who, while very good at his job, and while this book would have been wildly interesting, him just talking about his job, he kept reminding us how to be good at his job, he was abandoning his wife and kids. And he had this wife and kids, and they ended up getting divorced, and he like seemed to not have much to do with his family even after this divorce. And then he marries another poor woman and has kids with her and then is like, I can't focus on this either because of my job. So maybe it shouldn't have been a memoir. Maybe it should have just been about his job and the true crime aspects. But I think in general, I did discuss this for a book club. A lot of them really liked it and didn't harp on these aspects as much as I did, and I do think it could be a good place to start in true crime, especially if you've never heard of this case. He does talk about other cases he worked on, but it was good. Overall, it was good. I think I gave it, actually I have to look, I gave it 4 stars, so obviously not a terrible book. But that gets me to the end of this episode 2. Sorry again, I just sat down and like told you everything that happened, but I'm having a really good time with my reading this year and being more relaxed about my videos and stuff. So I am filming quite a bit today, so hopefully you see some things coming up here. Let me know if you have your eye on either of these new releases, or if you're interested in true crime at all. But thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.